So the first time that I ever sat down in a chair like this to do a reaction style video like this one, I was calling out hypocrisy. And at the time, that video blew up and a lot of people started saying to me, you need to do that more often, man. And I remember thinking to myself, nah, I don't know if I really keep going with this because there ain't that much to call out, is there? And then I realized that hypocrisy was just flowing all around me, and I realized that I had a never-ending supply of it to always be reacting to. These days, I kind of feel like the singer Weird Al. I heard him one time in an interview get asked, how long will you be able to parody other people's songs? And he says, as long as they're writing music. No matter where music goes, I will always be able to write a parody of it. And I feel that way today with hypocrisy. No matter where it goes, no matter how far they go with it, I'll always have content to make. And I have to call this one out because it's low-hanging fruit. It's right in front of me, but I can't let it pass. Mike Johnson says that the Republicans are the rule of law party. Think about that one for just a second and then watch this clip.
Ask you about the verdict. Clearly, you think it's a travesty, as many people do. And I think, having watched the trial, there are many grounds, fertile territory for the Trump team to use on appeal, but that's going to take time. In the meantime, there are a number of Republicans out there saying you guys need to turn around and do this same thing. John Yoo writing this. Republicans have to bring charges against Democratic officers, even presidents. Only retaliation in kind can produce the deterrence necessary to enforce a political version of mutual assured destruction. The other side, Peggy Noonan, writing about how high the temperature is, says this: we have to ease up. We have to stop enjoying our hate so much. We can't go on indefinitely like this. Are you worried that Republicans will be perceived as doing the very thing you're accusing Democrats of using the legal system for political purposes, if you follow John Yoo's advice?
Here's what I believe, Shannon. Listen, we are the rule of law party. Chaos is not a conservative value, and we have to fight back, and we will, with everything in our arsenal. But we do that within the confines of the rule of law. We believe in our institutions. We are conservatives, and we are trying to conserve the greatest country in the history of the world, and its institutions are an important part of that.
Folks, I really wish I believed him. I wish that I believed that conservatives still stood for that. If this was 2008 and that was John McCain saying it, I could probably entertain it. But 2024 coming out of Mike Johnson's mouth, I'm going to call bullshit every time. And this next clip of Eric Swalwell, he just took the words right out of my mouth. Take a look at it.
The hypocrisy of these guys, right? Like, we back the blue, we back the blue. Well, then the blue go and issue a search warrant on their guy, and all of a sudden they want to defund the police, right? They say they're all for states' rights, and then, they get a court that overturns Roe v. Wade, and now they want a federal abortion ban. And then they say that courts should be independent and respected. But by the way, if we need to, we can back channel to them. It's not about the Constitution. It's just about serving Trump.
He's right. It's only about serving Trump. That's all these people care about. They don't care about the rule of law. They never have. They only care about the rule of law when it applies to people they're going after, but Donald Trump gets a complete and total pass from them. Have you ever met a MAGA Republican, or have you ever heard the likes of Mike Johnson, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, Steve Bannon, you name it? Have you ever heard any of those people say that if Donald Trump did something wrong, he should be held accountable? No, you won't hear them say that because they can't even fathom in their mind that he could do something wrong. And when he does, right blatantly in front of their face, and when he becomes a convicted felon right in front of their face, they find a way to justify it, and they find a way to demonize the system, and they find a way to demonize everybody involved. And like Eric Swalwell says in this next clip, they can go after the judge, they can go after the prosecutors, whatever they want. At the end of the day, it's the jury that they're really going after. Take a look at this one.
But to attack the verdict is not an attack on Bragg. It's not an attack on the DOJ. It's not an attack on the prosecutors who tried the case or an attack on the judge who presided over it. It's an attack on 12 jurors. And so why don't you just come out and say what you really want to say, which is that those jurors, in your minds, are liars and they're fraudsters. But they won't say that, so they're going to attack everyone else because the truth is these were Donald Trump's neighbors. He chose to live in New York City. He committed his crimes in New York City, and his neighbors in New York City said you're a fraud.
That's what so many people fail to understand. It was a jury of his peers who all found him to be guilty. So you can attack the judge, you can attack the prosecutors, but at the end of the day, the jury is who looked at the evidence that they had in front of them and said, yep, this guy's guilty on all 34 counts. So these people clearly do not have an understanding of how the system works, but they're trying their damnedest to manipulate everyone's thinking on it. And I know I use this word a lot, but I'm sorry, that's where we're at. They love to gaslight us and make us think that we didn't see what really happened when in fact we can all see it unfold right in front of our eyes. But Jamie Raskin comes in on this next clip and makes so much sense because Donald Trump truly does have a mob-like mentality. That's how he views the system, but Raskin puts it great in this next clip.
Yeah, I mean, this is like an Atlantic City mob understanding of people who go into federal or state courts as judges, that somebody owns them. And I think Trump's position is either he owns the judge, he controls the judge, he feels that way about Eileen Cannon, obviously, or they're someone who can't be trusted, they're a political enemy. The whole world is friend or foe, which of course is a fascist way of looking at things, as opposed to something we believed in as recently as 5 or 6 years ago or 8 years ago, before Donald Trump polarized the whole country in thinking in that way. But we used to believe that there was a rule of law and that there were judges who were people who, didn't fly flags for one team or the other, but they could be trusted actually to interpret the law and apply the law to the facts. But I'm just afraid that his kind of authoritarian extremist approach to jurisprudence has begun to infect judges and justices as well as large parts of the population.
This truly is a mob-like mentality, and it's absolutely terrifying that we have people in this country who are going along with this and giving this a pass, and they don't see just how dead serious of a problem this truly is to want this man to be the leader of the free world again. This guy clearly has a mob-like mentality. You're either with him or you're against him. You step out of line with one word. How many of you seen The Godfather? I mean, remember what happened to Luca Brasi? He was sleeping with the fishes. That's what we're seeing here in politics today. That's what Donald Trump has ushered in. And somehow along the way, he got the religious right to just go right along with it. And I'm so glad that Raskin pointed this out as well.
If they had some problem with the underlying law, they should have attacked the initial indictment, and they should have said, no, the law against falsifying documents in New York is unconstitutional. Or, they should have claimed that you have a constitutional right to cook the books in order to cover up a hush money payment from your corporation to someone. But they didn't make that attack. What they're attacking is the jury verdict, which means they're attacking the jury process. But I think the reason they've shifted over to this overblown theological critique, which just sounds deranged to me, is that there's too much cognitive dissonance at this point. What you've got is the religious right gathering around a guy who's an adjudicated sexual assailant, an adjudicated fraudster in New York, and now a convicted felon. And normally, these are the people who would say convicted felons should never be allowed to vote again, even after they've done their time, their probation and parole. They should be disenfranchised permanently, and they want him to become president of the United States. And so, given this explosive cognitive dissonance, now they're all saying there are demons involved and devils, and you need an exorcism or something.
So getting back to calling out hypocrisy, if you truly believe that no one is above the law and the rules and the law and the Constitution should apply to everyone, then you have to include Donald Trump in that too. Because I can sit here and tell you, yes, I voted for Joe Biden in 2020. I'm going to do it again in 2024. But if Joe Biden has done something wrong and has committed a crime, you can go after him. I'm not going to argue with you on it. If you find him guilty, I'm not going to argue with you on it if he truly did something wrong. But they can't even entertain that thought with Donald Trump for 1 second, and that's why this is so dangerous. And if you truly care about the Bible and you believe that God sent his son down here to die for your sins, and you believe in those words in red, then how in the hell do you justify the words coming out of that orange turd's mouth? How do you sit back with a straight face and compare Donald Trump's conviction to Jesus Christ? I've seen people doing it. I still can't wrap my head around it. I know they'll find any way in the world to spin it. I don't personally believe in God. I personally don't believe in an afterlife. But that's some of the most blasphemous shit I've ever seen. And yet they just share it and pump it out into the world, and everybody gets behind it, and everybody cheers for it like they're watching their favorite reality show or like they're cheering for their favorite sports team. He can't do no wrong in their eyes. He can't. There's nothing we can show them. There's no piece of evidence. There's nothing we can show him saying or doing that's going to change their mind. And they're fired up and they're ready to vote. And Mike Johnson actually had the balls to say that the Republican Party is not the party of chaos. Did he not see January 6th? Has he not saw the rallies that Trump holds where people walks around waving flags that says real men wear diapers, and they have all their ridiculous WWE style chants and signs that they carry to every show? Has he not saw any of that? This is where we have come to as a country, where we have allowed this type of rhetoric and this type of behavior to make it into the mainstream. It used to always be bubbling underneath. It used to always be bubbling down there. Now it has boiled over and it's here. And I did a live recently with Adam Mockler. If you've not got a chance, go check it out. Adam is 21 years old, and he realized something that a 21-year-old Brando didn't realize. He said to me, you know what? I don't want some populist. I don't want someone with no experience in government running the government. I want somebody who's had years of experience. And I said to him, I said, you know what? I got to admit that when I was your age, I thought the opposite. Back when I was his age, I thought, yeah, let's get some third-party guy in there. Let's get this dude over here that knows nothing about government. Let him have a shot at it. But that's not reasonable thinking. It's really not. They turned over the reins of government to Donald Trump, and everyone that worked alongside him said it was a complete and total clusterfuck because he didn't have a clue in hell what he was doing. And he won't have a clue what in the hell he's doing the next go around. He's just coming back this time for revenge and retribution. So you want a guy who's clueless, who don't know how the system works, to get a hold of the system again and then go on a revenge tour, and somehow you think that's going to be good for all of us? That's going to help us somehow pay our bills? That's going to help us somehow make decisions about our health care? That's going to help us with all the problems we face as a country? Is him just going off on his revenge? We have to keep talking, and we have to keep trying to get people to wake up. I know it's hard. I know that it's frustrating, but we have to keep calling out this bullshit. So, yeah, I guess I'm with Weird Al now. He'll always be able to write parodies when people create music, and I'll always be able to make a video as long as the Republican Party exists.